this list is going to be a bit different. I'm going to go over like one mana cards that are super powerful in each color. So here we go. These two white cards, both Elsada Vice Bounty and Selfless Savior, they're the one mana creatures that they either give like protection or indestructible. They're rescue creatures is what we're going to call them. They prevent creatures from getting removed, and they usually sacrifice themselves in the process somehow, some way. I'll say that you can pay one sacrifice that gives a target creature enchantment protection from a certain color. Mind you, you can't pick a color. And Selfless Savior, you sacrifice to give a target creature indestructible. Authority of Councils, this card is just unfair. Creatures in your opponent's control enter the battlefield untapped, are tapped. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your opponent's control, you gain 1 life. The card is just unfair. It's good in every single deck, so play it. I actually don't because it's not fun. Ephemerate, exile target creature you control that returns to the battlefield under owner's control, and it's got rebound, so you can play it next turn for free. These are what's called flicker spells, and this is easily the best one, is Ephemerate. By a long shot. This card is absolutely nuts. If you're playing what's called like what I like to call bounce house deck, where you're playing off a lot of ETBs, like, oh, this card enters the battlefield, this creature enters the battlefield, and it does something right when it enters the battlefield. You play this card, and you play as many as you could. If you can play 15 of Ephemerates, you would. As for Sentinel, whenever your opponent casts their first 9 creature spell, they gotta pay the tax of his power, otherwise you draw a card. It's only the first one. This card's just good. It's right card draw. White was traditionally pretty weak at card draw. It's starting to get really good at it. Fragment Reality makes cards absolutely mental. Exile target 9-token artifact, creature, or enchantment. Its controller pulls out a creature with lesser mana value, puts it on the battlefield, taps 3 from their deck. This is an arena only card. This card is insanely powerful. God's Willing and Sheltering Light. They're a lot like those 2 creatures we showed before, the Elsada and the Selfless Savior. The green and white gets a ton of these. They're 1 mana spells that prevent something from being removed. By either giving a protection, giving a indestructible, hexproof is usually the green one. Green is typically just hexproof. There's some white ones that give hexproof too. I just picked those 2 as an example because there's a lot of them that do that. They do pretty much like 1 or 2 mana counters, most forms of removal. Previous Humiliation, this card is got a mob justice effect where you count the amount of creature you control deals damage to something. We're not playing it for that, we're playing it for target creature perpetually loses all abilities. So that means even if it goes to the graveyard, it has no abilities. Blanking creatures is really, really good because sometimes you just play creatures strictly for their abilities. You don't play them for their stats, you play them for their abilities. Soul Warden is a life gain buddy. There's actually called a deck called Soul Sisters, and she's one of the sisters of the deck. She reads whenever a creature enters the battlefield under anyone's control, you gain 1 life. This card gets out of hand really quick, makes life gain a viable strategy. Not so much because you're gaining life, it's because when you're gaining life, there's creatures that see you gaining life, and then they get their effects going off because you gain life. And this is easily the best one. The other Soul Sister is exactly like her, except she's green. We don't have her in Arena right now, but once we do, you'll definitely see Soul Sister pop up. Soul Splashes, exile target creatures, control your very power. Example, this is one of the best creature removals, period, in the entire game. Alright, this is a 1 mana list for blue. Those who start off with Curiosity, Curious Obsession. Both of them are kind of the same card. Curiosity means whenever a shady creature deals damage to your opponent, you draw a card. Curiosity has a combo potential. Curious Obsession, shady creature gets 1/1 whenever they deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card. If they fail to attack that turn, or any turn, you sacrifice Curious Obsession. They're both good. I think Curious Obsession, in my opinion, is a little bit better, because they have 1 attack and 1 defense, really raises the clock. But Curiosity has their combo potential. best mill cards ever. It's a 0-3 that reads whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. Now in Commander, that's 9 cards per land, 3 from each person. It's insane. Wash away can counter anything that doesn't come from the hand for 1 mana. If it comes from the hand, you gotta pay 3 mana. This card's nuts, easily an auto-include in Commander, because that counts your Commander. That counts if you impulse draw. A pocket draw, what I like to call it, is where you have cards in max out and you can play them for a certain period of time. Usually a turn cycle or a turn at most. So it can counter anything for 1 mana, basically. It can counter a lot of things for 1 mana.
Alright, now we're moving on to black. Bone Shards. This card's insane. It's an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, or discard a card. Pop target creature or planeswalker. It is sorcery speed. But understand that black gets a few of these effects. The other good ones, the other noteworthy ones are Spark Harvest and Eaten Alive. Eaten Alive is, you can't discard for either one of those, both Spark Harvest and Eaten Alive, because it costs extra mana, but you can sacrifice creatures for them. And then what's good about them is they hit creatures and planeswalkers. There's a few other ones that only hit creatures, but Bone Shards is definitely the best one because you can discard with it. Dark Ritual, this card's insane. You pay 1 black mana, you get 3 black mana back. So you net 2 mana from it. If you break this card, it gives you just boatloads of mana. It's not legal in Historic or Traditional Historic, but it's legal in Pioneer, so you'll probably see this card quite a bit. Because if you can turbo out stuff, that's really good. These next few cards I'm showing you are all 1 mana discard spells. They're all cherry picks. Cherry picks means you look and you pick the card. Thoughtseize hits anything, but you lose 2 life. That's not a land. Obviously, when I say anything, just automatically assume I'm talking about not lands. Inquisition of Kozilek hits anything that's mana value 3 or less. Duress hits anything that's not a creature or a land. And then Dreams of Steel of Oil hits creatures and artifacts in the hand, and then it exiles 1 creature or artifact from the graveyard. So it's either or from the hand and graveyard. So either a creature and an artifact from the hand, or a creature and an artifact from the graveyard. Either or. It's not both, because that'd be insane. Kaya's Ghost Form, this is one of the best 1 mana protection spells, period. It's an enchantment, so it sticks around. But the way it reads is, as long as your creature or your planeswalker, because it affects planeswalkers too, if it were to die or get exiled, you just return it back to the battlefield with Kaya's Ghost Form gone. So, this card is insane. It's 1 mana. It's easily one of the best 1 mana protection spells, period. Stitcher Supplier enables self-mill, because whenever she enters play, she enters or mills the top 3 cards of your library, and then when she perishes, she does that again. She's really cool because it's the old school Magic art where she's holding a severed head, which is some like really crazy art. They don't do that kind of art anymore, which is unfortunate. A lot of like toned down, censored, kid-friendly-ish art.
Alright, these are the white cards. It's going to play that crazy. And with this matchup, we both work kind of the same. There's 1 mana red cards. What they're going to play is Pyrus that you need red to use his ability. There's that 1 mana buddies that when they attack, they get your cards kind of back into your hand some way, shape, or form. Their next player is when he attacks, you exile the top card of your library face down underneath them, and then you can discard your hand and put all those exile cards into your hand. And once it's 3 elemental, when it attacks and connects to an opponent, it gets a skewer counter, and then immediately after you can sacrifice that, and if they use skewer counter, you exile the top card of your library, you may play that for a turn. So they regenerate their hand for 1 mana, as long as they get enough hits in, or swings in. One way to get this card's unfair, this card actually got nerfed in this game. It actually does 6 damage in real life. Like, there was 2 damage from the planeswalker, the Iridium that does 6 instead. The Iridium means you got 4 different card super types in your graveyard. So like land, sorcerer, instant, creature, you know, and it's really easy to get that card off, and then that's probably one of the best removals in the game. Sure, like something like Swords of Flashes, it really, like, it might even be better than Swords, honestly, because it doesn't get life back. Then the first player, it's a treason effect. That means you steal the creature, you get it for a turn, it gets haste, and so it can attack and act for 1 turn, and then you give it back. Usually with these types of cards, though, you play them in decks where you don't plan on getting the creature back. You're just going to sacrifice the creature to your own
it loads your graveyard. You can go ahead and put a bunch of nasty creature threats, and even like artifacts and enchantments too, if you're really artifacts or enchantments, into your graveyard, and then you're just spitting out like really strong artifacts or enchantments. I'll show you a few historic lists that kind of really break this card wide open that I can muster. Right in the next, these are a lot like Bone Springers. It's good because it does 5 damage to try a creature at instant speed, but the big gap with it is you can discard a creature with it and reanimate it. So it's a really cheap, efficient removal that loads up your graveyard that you want to be doing anyways. It's not a reanimated list, that's what a reanimated list is. It puts cards in the graveyard and brings them back at efficiency at a cheaper price. Usually a card involved, like not play a card that it costs less. I only make simple card that goes 3 damage to the target. And that's like removals. Like if you're allowed to play it, really evade every single red deck, unless it's banned. Monster is Swiftly has haste and prowess. Haste means you can activate it. Prowess means every time you cast an creature spell, it gains a temporary bonus of 1 attack and 1 defense. And that stacks, so if you play 2 or 3, it can get really big really quick. Prowess creatures are pretty nuts. This is the hell of those creatures. And then Vagabond is literally probably the most unfair 1-drop creature in the game. And behind the thing is the so every attacks and connects with an opponent. You have a training token to select the top card of the deck. You may play it this turn. You can't play it for any mana values or colors. So if it's like 8 blues, it might be impossible for you to cast. But you play it mainly because when he connects, you make training tokens. And if you dash him into this haste, and then he jumps back into your hand at the end of the turn.
This one might look a little bit awkward. This is the green list. I had to redo this part of the video because I screwed it up. So forgive me, like, the next videos will be a lot better. Haywire Mite, this card's nuts. When he perishes, you gain 3 life. You can pay a green and sacrifice him. Exile target non-creature artifact or a non-creature enchantment. I can't remember what the change is. I think this used to be 2 mana, but they made it 1. The reason this card is good is because in Historic you have a deck called Hammer Time, which we'll go over the Hammer card and why it's so good. But the next two cards I'm showing you are 1 mana green cards that grab creatures and or lands. Traverse the Uberwald, it just grabs lands, but if you have Delirium, again, Delirium is 4 different cards of a different super type into your graveyard, so that's lands, creatures, planeswalkers, etc. Those are the super types. You can grab a land, but if you have Delirium, you can grab a creature instead. And Abundant Harvest reads, you take land or non-land, dig through the top of your deck until you hit one of those declared types, and you put the card in your hand. These 1 mana draw spells with green, they're pretty decent. You don't want too many of them in your deck because they're still 1-for-1s, but they can guarantee that you get land drops early, or guarantee you get your creature to play on turn 2, turn 3, so they're pretty good. Blizzard Brawl and Bushwhack kind of are honorable mentions as well, because they're both fight spells, but Bushwhack also can search your library for a basic land, so it's one of those 1 mana draw land cards, which is a form of ramp. It doesn't put it onto the battlefield right away, but guaranteeing your land drops is like ramp light, we'll call it that. Blizzard Brawl, this card is unfair. This card is a super great removal, probably the 5th best 1 mana card in like probably the entire game, dang near. It reads, choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. If you control 3 or more snow permanents, the creature you control gets 1 attack and gains indestructible until end of your turn, and then those creatures fight each other. This card usually causes 2-for-1s in the sense that, like, you're hitting a creature, winning that combat, and then swinging in for probably about 4 or 5 damage, roughly. So your opponent's taking 4 or 5 there. And you're removing one of their guys. And if they're forced to chump block, if they're taking too much damage, it's usually like a 2-for-1. And probably a 3-for-1, because half the time the creature will probably have trample. I'm showing you some 1 mana dweebs. You'll see them in a lot of like Gruul lists and Atali Primal Conqueror type of lists. They're just cards that, they're 1 mana guys that what the creature does is it helps you get other cards sooner, that you play cards sooner than you should. That's what ramp means. So Delighted Halfling reads, it has 1 colorless, but it's mainly good for legendaries. Add 1 mana of any color, spend that to only cast legendaries. Those legendaries can't be countered. And you can only do that once per turn because you gotta tap it. Gilded Goose is good in like multicolored lists because you can tap it and sacrifice a food, and it makes a mana of any color. So that's what makes it good. Hardened Scales, this card is like literally a deck archetype in itself. It reads, if one or more 1/1 counters are you put on a target creature you control, you put that many +1 instead. So it adds more 1/1 counters, which makes your creatures bigger faster, so they promote a more lethal clock for your opponent. It speeds the clock up by like 2 or 3 turns. This card literally makes an entire archetype itself. When I start doing more of my historic content, you will definitely be seeing me play this card a whole bunch because I play 1/1 counters a lot. Mystic Repeal is an honorable mention. This card is an absolutely menace of a hate card for enchantments. It says put target enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library for 1 mana and instant speed. Just nope, get that enchantment out of here. Putting it straight to the bottom of the deck. This card is like probably arguably, as far as 1 mana or 1 single target enchantment hate cards, it's the strongest in like the entire game. Practically, it really is. Tamiyo's Safekeeping, you can't read the whole thing, but it says target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn you gain 2 life. Those are a lot like the white cards we went over, where it's like it protects it from removal. So, and Tamiyo's Safekeeping, I think, is one of the strongest ones because it covers permanence, so you can pick anything. Veil of Summer is a color hate card. It says draw a card if opponent has cast a blue or black spell, and then you gain hexproof from blue and hexproof from black. And yeah, that's it. Oh, and your spells can't be countered, which really, that really hoses blue, and it doesn't really do too much to black. This is a color hate card where it like picks a color or two, and it does a really strong effect against those types of colors. This card is completely banned in a lot of formats because a lot of blue and black decks, it literally shuts off their turn for 1 mana. Is why that card is banned. It's really, really, really strong. So I gave myself some room here.
Alright, this is Colossus Hammer. That deck I talked about with Hammer Time, this is the card that makes it Hammer Time. It says if that creature gets 10 attack and 10 defense and loses flying, it's 1 mana but it flips for 8. Well, the way Hammer Time works is you play Hammer already equipped to something that we're usually like 1 or 2 mana. So by turn 3 if the Hammer Time deck goes off, by turn 3 you're facing down an 11-11 or a 12-12, which is pretty big. Usually sometimes that 12-12 or 11-11 also has trample, so it's going to close the game out in about 2 swings. So that's why I've been playing a lot of Haywire Mike. You'll see that a lot in Historic. I'll show it to you when we play that. Lantern of the Wasp, these are 1 mana hate on the graveyard cards. I just picked Lantern of the Wasp because it hits both graveyards, so it's not rated self-reanimation or self-mill list, but it always draws a card. That's why I think it's good in a lot of lists that don't care about the graveyard. It's the best one. There's tons of them. There's Lantern of the Wasp like this. There's another Lantern from Pharaohs. I can't remember the name of that. There's Sentinel's Totem. That's from the old Ixalan set. And there's a few other ones. That's just the name of a few. There's Tormund's Crypt. That's 0 mana. I should go over the 0 mana cards, but those don't really exist in color. There's only like a few colorless 0 mana cards, and they're not really that great. Besides Tormund's Crypt. Manifold Key is here for its top ability, not its bottom ability. The bottom ability is good. It reads untap target another target artifact, or a target creature can't be blocked this turn. The untapping another target artifact is very breakable in what's called a Tron deck. A Tron deck it plays a lot of colorless cards, and the way they win the game is they take such long turns that they just do so much stuff that they get like 50 turns ahead of you in 1 turn. That's basically how they come to win the game. I put Shadowspear here, and I think this card is excellent. It says equip creature you control gains 1 attack, 1 defense, lifelink, and trample. So it helps you win the race. It gives you a little bit of evasion and a little bit of toughness and attack. And it can remove hexproof and indestructible from opponents' permanents. They just all lose. The Ozolith is a shoe-in for counters list. It says if the creature that you have counters on will be removed, you remove the creature, sure, but all those counters will usually go away. Well, they get put onto the Ozolith, and then the Ozolith holds on to them until your next combat, and you can shift them from the Ozolith onto a creature. It's pretty funny having an Ozolith that has like flying and hexproof. And granted, it's not a creature, but it's just funny, the little animation of the flying hexproof, indestructible Ozolith. It's very possible. We'll definitely see me in this